see.
I got a preview.
I did too. I'm going live.
Cool. All right. Right on. We're live. Time episode. I'm not sure, but we got Zeph from Kiesel here. Gonna
What's up, everybody?
give us the lowdown on what's going on, the future of Kiesel, and talk about some of the other lesser known products everyone knows about the servo light. But
Yeah, let's start with your bio and go from there, my friend.
Thanks. Hey, so my name is Zeph Carrig, and I've been with Kiesel for 5 years now, pretty much since the start of them coming to America. And I was just a regular old contractor before this, but a friend of mine who's now working for a company, San Diego Marble and Tile, he went to work as a sales, kind of a national sales manager for this importer, and who was the San Diego Marble and Tile. It was called Vero Systems, and they brought Kiesel to America. And I'd done some work with Junior before, a cool guy. And I saw that he was working for Kiesel, and I'm like, oh, you sell out, you're going to be a salesman. So I was kind of giving him a little bit of grief about that. And then I saw their Instagram posts of a guy putting a cinder block on the wall, and pretty much changed my thinking of like what he was going to do. And for the next couple of weeks, I just sat there working away at the houses I was on, thinking to myself, dang, my friend's going to get rich, because that stuff's incredible looking. And it would have, changed so much as an installer to have that, so.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got involved with Kiesel. Kiesel itself is a family-owned business of 70 years, still being run by Beatrice Kiesel. So it's a third-generation owner. They're manufacturing everything in one plant in Germany. It was recently actually purchased. Kiesel as a whole was purchased by Cemex, which is the third largest cement, dealer or manufacturer, I guess I should say, in the world. And so recently we've had an influx of interest in what we do. They've never had any kind of finished cements at all in their production whatsoever. They're just industrial cement. And, we had a trade booth at Surfaces in 2020, and a couple guys came up to our booth and started asking if they could buy Kiesel. And so Junior, being the sales guy, he started telling me, yeah, sure, we can sell you containers. We could sell you this. He sent it. So he got hot on sending them emails and trying to stay in touch with them. But he didn't understand, even though he's bilingual, his Spanish apparently wasn't that good. And they were actually asking to buy Kiesel. They weren't asking to buy Kiesel products. So they ended up buying us like 4 years later. And so here we are now, and we're kind of entering a new era of Kiesel, which is going to be super fun to be attached to, because we now have not just a family-owned business, but a huge company behind us that want us to see our success. Obviously, they purchased us. They want to see us do big things. And so we're going to start doing them.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Where's this company based out of that purchased you guys?
Cemex is a Mexican company, but they're all over the world. Like I said, they're the third largest in the world, and it's their European division that bought Kiesel in particular. So they have different kind of divisions all over the world, divided by continent, and that's the part of the business that bought us.
Gotcha.
Now, I know obviously Kiesel in Canada, and then like you being the rep over in the US. Now, is it also, I assume, now over in Europe as well, since they acquired it over there, or how's that work?
Oh yeah, no, that's everything. So everything that we sell here in America is actually coming from Esslingen, Germany. So that one factory,
awesome.
That originated on his farm. He started making sundries at his farm and started selling to guys 70 years ago that had to make their own stuff. And so he started. Awesome. Yeah, he just started selling to all the neighborhood guys, what led to, selling to people in the country and then other countries and on and on. So everything comes from his backyard, literally.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's exciting. That's super cool. Well, I got to meet
go ahead.
Oh, I got to meet Junior when I was out there with Andrew last week. Played a round of golf. Very good gentleman. So that was the first time getting to meet him, and funny guy. So it was awesome. We had a good time.
Yeah, he's an exciting character. I've known him a really long time. Our kids are motocross racers, and that's how we met. We met at the track together. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Heck
yeah,
yes. How long have they been doing that? For a little while, or?
since they were like, so my kid since he turned 4, so he's 18 now. So it's been a long time.
Oh yeah, that's a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Did you used
Oh,
to
that's exciting.
race dirt bikes or something? Did you get him into it?
I did, yeah, but not nearly like what he did. I was kind of just a local goon kid that raced local tracks up in the Washington area, and I was just a casual fan and was watching it on TV when my kid was little, and he just wanted a blue motorcycle so bad that's what my wife bought him. So,
Oh, that's cute.
Wow.
That's awesome.
She's the one that bought it for him, huh?
yeah.
Seems like
That's
a dad
too
move
good.
to get the motorcycle.
So yeah,
Cool, man.
Junior was the sales manager of Kiesel as Vero Systems was our importer. But there was a point in which Kiesel was kind of blowing up too much, and it was really hard to keep up with the financial, big picture of what it takes to be an importer. And so the importer that both Junior and I were working with decided to hand it off to Tile Shop. And so now if you ever hear any Tile Shop references, if you're trying to buy pallets or you're trying to be a dealer, you're trying to be whatever it is, it's because they're the sole importer of Kiesel to the United States. And if you want to be a dealer anywhere in the Western region of the United States, you have to buy through them.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I think you're, like you said, you're able to access it if you're in the California area. Now, outside of California, is it pretty much strictly pallet program, or how does that work? Are there other distributors throughout the U.S. or?
No, we're so new here that we get a lot of interest from people who want it. Like if I had $1 for every single guy who DM'd me and said, "Hey man, where can I go buy a Kiesel?" I would be a rich man. I wouldn't need to sell Kiesel. But, it takes guys like installers going into their dealers and just saying, "Hey, I've been seeing these products. Everybody swears by them. No one's getting paid by them to swear by it. So maybe you guys should take a look at it or call them or something." That's really what it takes to get something going, and that's how we've done it on the West Coast. I mean,
Beautiful.
when Tile Shop took over, we had I think 23 or 26 dealers, and that was 2.5 years ago. We're up to like 78 dealers now or something.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's all just been people going, "Hey, I saw this stuff on Instagram," or someone told me about this stuff, and it's just spread organically through the network like that. But we're still looking for like big distributors in the East Coast, especially. The middle of the United States would be good too, but like a lot of the hotbeds for the kind of tile work that is prevalent, and as far as like the contemporary stuff is done on both coasts, right? There's not a lot of the really large format stuff or anything like that going on in the middle of America. I mean, there's more than ever, but still not as much as the coastal regions, right?
I've been doing a lot of stone fireplaces. It seems like obviously didn't countless bathrooms, but right now it's been everybody calling for fireplaces. So I'm like, okay, going through a little wave right now. But over here in Colorado, it's all, like I said, stone, from all different angles, all different varieties. So that's why I'm excited. I'm going to finally get to break my bag open tomorrow. I know you've been asking, so I'm gonna finally get to my hands dirty. So it'll be good and make some content with it. So it'll be fun. Get to test it out myself, kind of see, obviously everyone calls it magical. So that's what I'm excited to see. How obviously no ledger board, just the consistency. And what I'm most excited about on top of everything is the pot life. I believe naturally it lasts for, if I'm correct, is about 3 hours, give or take. Is that right?
Yep.
So
yeah, we say 3.5. We say 3.5 hours, and it would. You got to be careful because it will literally go all day if you keep whipping it. So it's
amazing.
But you can't use it after 3.5 hours. Basically, because of the type of cement we are, we're a chemical cure. We don't need CO2. We're not environmentally challenged with moisture and cutting off its CO2 source. It's literally like when you add water to our product, it turns into I always use the example of like, you take 5-minute epoxy, you squeeze the two things out, you whip them together, and you got 5 minutes, right?
Yep.
That's a chemical cure. We have the same type of cure. It doesn't need atmosphere doesn't necessarily change our condition. So when you add water to it, it's basically you're adding a catalyst to our chemical makeup. And with that being said, you can keep whipping out the moisture out of the crystal structure into the pot of cement that makes it nice and smooth like it has been all day. But that doesn't mean that that's a good thing in all cases, because after about 3.5 hours, we're kind of sliding into the catalyst mode.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense. So now, what's obviously that's the pot life. Now when you're putting it on the wall, is it about 20 minutes? Is that what you got kind of
probably more like 30, depending on the substrate. If you're going right over a float, then obviously that's going to be shortened up a little bit because it's so, it'll
suck in the moisture out.
Yeah.
Yep.
But for the most part, like if you're going over any kind of primed area, like if you use one of our primers or anybody's acrylic primer for that matter, and do the substrate you're going to attach it to, dude, it's just 30 minutes later, it still feels creamy and, just as good.
I was getting 20 plus, no problem over like foam concrete.
God, that's amazing.
For sure.
Now,
anything that isn't just doesn't absorb the moisture out of it. So.
And then I asked a question earlier between me and you, but obviously we'll state it right now so everyone knows. You said it was 72 bags per pallet. Obviously pallet program is in place. So depending on where I would say location would be, it would be a delivery cost. They'd contact you and get that all figured out. And then obviously you'd have your turnaround time from depending on location of where it's getting distributed from and all the above. But I was surprised you had a real quick turnaround here. So I'm excited to, once when these people sign this contract, I know I've been telling you I'm going to get one, and I finally feel like I need 27 bags essentially on this 2-story fireplace I'm bidding out right now. So if I can, this will be the good time to utilize it. I can practically pay off half of that right now and then have those other bags just kind of waiting for future projects. So it'll be good.
For sure. Depending on your location, if you're Eastern United States, even Northeastern, it gets a little less expensive. So we have another distribution hub in Ontario, Canada. And so we've been in Canada for about 15 years and we're saturated everywhere. Everybody knows what Kiesel is just because of the challenging environment they have. But so if you're close to that place, or even on anywhere, I sent one, I think, to Florida, it's about $2,500, give or take, for a pallet, for if you can buy in that. But that also takes a couple things. So it takes a commercial address. You have to have something that a big truck can pull up to and unload. When you start giving them home addresses, the trucking becomes extremely expensive because they don't know what kind of street you have and if they got to put it on a smaller bobtail or whatever it is. So I always just say, hey, if you got a friend with a store or some kind of business that has a loading dock, just say, hey, can I have a pallet dropped off? And it's way easier to deal with that way. But
I love that idea.
Yeah, so that's just how we plan on fulfilling people's needs until we have some kind of distribution over there. And probably, I hate to say it, but once there's distribution in place, probably some of that will ease up and we won't be so lenient about who we're selling it to. But for now, we have to do what we have to do to get word of mouth and help people out.
So, push product. So right now I've got the servo light here. Can you kind of go ahead, Kyle.
I was gonna say, so servo light's the big product that everyone knows about here. What other thin sets does Kiesel make?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's kind of without being dull, it's like our industry is kind of wacky when it comes to that, and what I mean is that that servo light that's sitting on his counter and our other popular one, which is Trio, which is our floor setting material, they've literally been around 25 years. So it's this new exciting thing that no one can believe when they see it here. But the reality is that we're a couple decades ahead in Europe, and that's old stuff. And I don't mean it's old like it doesn't work or it's not good enough anymore. I just mean that we've reached a point with mortars over there that you basically can't improve it anymore. So it's like they're not the kind of company that's just going to be, hey, we have to have Servolite 2 for, you know, a new marketing campaign in the next 2 years, and where we go to all the trade shows and show our new Servolite 2, and this time it can also do this. You know, it's like that bag next to him literally does everything that you can ever want something to do, and like we literally just can't improve it anymore. So we're not the kind of people that are just going to always have new stuff. I mean, we make new products for specialty markets that you know, want to fit into a price range or something like that, but what we make or what we import to the United States is our tried and true, you know, same formula stuff we've done forever. And we don't want to confuse this market with, you know, it's really counterintuitive when you think about it. Like that bag of Servolite he's sitting next to pretty much do anything that any thin set on the market will do, and then some more. And so to say that I need 3 different versions of it in multi-purpose kind of ways is kind of ludicrous, right? So
well, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, we do offer 4 in the United States, and so one is Servolite. We'll get into this more probably as we talk about Servolite, but one of them Servolite S2, one of them's Trio, which is that floor stuff I was talking about, and then one of them's Flex 5 that is a more rapid cure, but less bucket time than like a Servolite. So it's really meant for membranes or quick turnaround installs. So
perfect.
They all kind of have their own little specialties. But you know, between Servolite and Trio, our 2 main go-to products, it will literally do everything. So like, if you notice, like Servolite, that it doesn't say it on the bag, but it says it in all the documentation. Servolite's an S1 rated mortar. And, you know, here in the United States, we basically have C1 and C2 mortars, C1 being a basic cement, C2 being a modified basic cement, right? Maybe with some other attributes, whether it's a large heavy or it's a fast drying or whatever it might be. That mortar is an S1 mortar. And what that means is that mortar, not only does it reach all the standards of what you're supposed to have to do all the modern tile we're doing, but it also has a level of deformability, right? So that mortar has 5 millimeters of deformability, meaning that as that porcelain tile or whatever it is moving and taking the load of your home movement, the mortar bed actually acts like somewhat of a, you know, safety net for it, or an uncoupling, and it's moving around behind it to alleviate the stress from getting to the surface of the tile.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that's what I was saying about. So we also offer a Servolite S2, which is a plus 7 millimeters of deformability. And so the ISO standards that everybody else is operating off of say that that's a necessary product if you're doing tiles over 11 square feet. So if you're doing a 48 by 48, due to, you know, ISO standards, you're supposed to have an S2 rated mortar. If you're doing large or ultra large kind of format things outside or on floors, you should probably use an S2 rated mortar as well. So especially outside because of the elements. So yeah, that's kind of unique to our product line, and that everything that we're selling is at least S1 rated. So
that's amazing. Heck yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty
You've
cool.
explained that very well. I didn't realize that. So that's perfect. That's awesome. So
did they all run about the same price?
Yeah, they're close. They're all probably within $5 to $11, depending on like what bag you're talking about. I actually think our cheapest bag of thin set is Servolite.
Really?
And
wow.
or right there with Flex 5, the one that does all the uncouplings and floors and stuff like that. So they're all about the same. And you know, the S2 gets a little expensive because it does have additives in it that cost more money to make. And it also comes in the larger bag size. You have a 27.5 pound bag there.
Yeah.
The other one is a 33 pound bag, and then Trio is a 44 pound bag. So we have all these weird sizes of bags.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We moved Servolite away from a 33 pound bag because you can't fit one in a 5-gallon bucket. So let that be known too. If you have a big bag of Servolite, it won't fit in a 5-gallon. It'll flow over the top and expand and mushroom. So
interesting. Good to know.
Yeah, we have these big 7-gallon buckets here in the United States that we sell that go along with it if you're mixing full bags of Trio or S2.
See, that's awesome.
if you do if a pallet's ordered, will you do a mix? Like, can you do some trio and not
No.
be all
One and one.
There has to be unwrapped perfect pallets. That's the only we're selling it so affordably. It's basically you're getting what dealers get, right?
Yeah.
So you're almost calling you a dealer and you're getting dealer prices. And so we can't put manpower into breaking down bags at different holding facilities to accommodate that. But I can tell you that, you know, a majority of what the people come search us out for is Servolite anyhow. So if you're going to be probably ordering something from us, that's most likely what you're going to be ordering. I've never sold an independent pallet to somebody other than just Servolite.
Yeah.
Now you said the other one was Flex 5 and then Trio for floors. Now, are you able to use Servolite for floors as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, you can use that as a single formula. Where Servolite doesn't shine like Trio is that Servolite, because it's a wall product, it has a higher content of polymers in it, and so it retains moisture more for some reason on floors than it does walls. And so one of the kind of trademarks of our products being alumina cement and being catalyzed cement is that you can always grout it within 12 hours of installation. Right. And,
Beautiful.
you know, I'm going to put an asterisk on there and say, but if it was raining and it was 20 degrees out, you should wait a little longer. Right. Because it temperature does affect how long that does take to cure. But for the most part, in 95% of the situations, you can always grout it in 12 hours.
That's
if you
amazing.
use Servolite on the floor, however, and you're covering it with a 12 by 24 or something larger, it's going to be a little slower curing on the floor. The floor tends to have maybe more access to moisture, more access to cold temperature, stuff like that. So it does slow it down slightly. But still, we're 12 hours to grout no matter what, basically, in our product line. And the one I was telling you about that's Flex 5 is actually 4 hours. So if you're doing a small bathroom one morning, a powder room, you can literally go set the floor and grout it 4 hours later and split with a paycheck. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Is that
pretty
one
cool.
Good for floors and walls as well?
Yeah, I mean it's not Servolite, but like as far as like non-sag goes on the wall, but it's very industry standard. You know what you guys are used to. If you don't use Servolite, sure, it'll do it just like that. But it also is kind of meant for membranes too. So to be able to walk on your membranes in 4 hours is pretty bitchin' as well.
Hell yeah, it is. That's awesome. So we talked about the thin set y'all have to offer. Now, I wasn't realized until following, obviously, Amos when he was kind of showcasing all the other products that you have to offer as well. Can you kind of explain that for our viewers? Just kind of break into, you know, different avenues of where we're going.
Sure.
What this company wants to offer here in this.
Well, I mean, yeah, I will. Just so you guys know, we make like 300 products. So we don't have all those here. We have like, I think 6 or something products here in the United States. And so they're very basic, right? We have one type of grout. We have 4 different thin sets. We have Ocatmas DSG primer, that pink stuff that you've seen guys rolling on the wall. We
also saw Kurt drink it.
Yeah, Kurt just pounded a pint of that stuff. It's shocking. Listen, maybe I should caveat here into, you know, a good point with that is that all of our products, the one of the reasons why we're starting to kind of take off like we are is that all of our products are non-caustic, non-VOC. So we're the only ones in the United States that can tell you, well, other than the dust that is in everything that can harm you, there's no caustic chemicals, there's no VOCs, there's no, you know, lime content, there's nothing in it that will screw up your hands, that will screw up your health, that will do any of that.
That's
kind
awesome.
Of stuff. And so that was maybe Kurt taking a play on that as well, you know, obviously the no VOC kind of thing that he's drinking, but yeah, we're the only ones in the United States that have that technology here. And so, and it's crazy because I just told you those are 25-plus-year-old bags that you are buying from us, right? So it's all EC1 plus rated, which is the highest rating in the world for sustainability and non-caustic and all the stuff that goes with it. So we're kind of like, not kind of, we are leading edge when it comes to that being important. I always thought it was ironic that I would go to, you know, tile stores and see a brand out there feeding everybody a barbecue lunch and handing out hats and stuff. And, you know, it's crazy to me that they'll feed you while killing you at the same time.
Exactly.
How about just give me some stuff that isn't going to kill me? I'd appreciate that more than a hot dog.
Well, that's what I always told. I used to do the project managing, but even now, I mean, with modern day medical things, yeah, there's so many things you can replace. You know, get your knees replaced. You can do everything. You can't replace your lungs. So
Yeah,
I mean,
you know,
you got to take
kidneys are
PPE.
expensive too. You know,
See,
right? So you know, all that stuff's expensive. Your internal organs is what, you know, when you got jacked up hands from tiling, everybody's always told you, oh, well, it's, you know, lime's very, you know, aggressive on your hands. It's you know, acidic, and it gets into you. Well, yeah, that's true, but it's really the caustic chemicals that are, you know, making your hands like get all red and inflamed around the cracked areas.
Yep.
And
Yep.
those things are, you know, you can't get away from how bad they make you feel. I mean, I can remember using products where it's like I washed my hands in my bucket, and like for the rest of the day, I felt it all over my forearms, and I felt like I couldn't even wash the stuff off. So, I
Oh,
mean,
I literally, I had it probably about, I'd say a month ago from a different brand where back of my hands, I wear gloves even, and most of the time, but from just washing my hands over and over again, using those same chemicals, had a massive rash. And I mean, usually you can use that, what is it, the working hands, and that would kind of help it. But even this time it was working hands and Vaseline. It was just, it had eaten my hands away. So that's exciting to know that that's not going to be the case here. So that's really good.
part of that is also what your body does at a toxicity level, right? Your body can only handle processing those toxic things for so long. And then when it hits its mark of when it can't process it anymore is when you see it start erupting on your skin and giving you hives and giving you, you know, the red or irritated bumps and stuff. Yeah, that's literally, you've reached your maximum, and now your body's just dumping it off into your skin. The skin's the biggest organ. So that's a real indicator for you that you should be trying to protect yourself and use stuff that isn't, you know, doing
Gonna
that to you.
cause this, yeah, because the longevity of it, that's what's gonna continue to not be good. So that's exciting.
Your toxicity has already been reached. Now you're just processing through your skin.
Oh man, I'm learning a lot tonight. Thanks, Zeph. This is good. This is good. So we've talked about the grout, we've talked about the primer, and then, like I said, sorry, I kind of interrupted you there with the Kurt comment. But what else we got?
Oh, so we have a couple things on the horizon right now. We just took KI1 into stock here in California, and that's our self-leveler. And we did have some in the past. And like, for instance, Andrew had done some reels years ago with it where we did this beach house in it. It's just incredible stuff that goes over OSB, goes from 0 to an inch, basically, you know, over ply or over cement or whatever it is. It's phenomenal. So the basis, I should have probably got into this first. The basis of all of our products is that alumina cement, right? So over here in the United States, everything, just because of our, you know, our natural resources here, we make everything out of Portland-based cement because all those mineral bases are super abundant here. And all the, you know, the alumina products, the calcium aluminate kind of base products come from Europe. That's basically what's readily available over there. They have Portland materials too, but alumina stuff is everywhere. So it's used in these types of products for a reason. With alumina, you know, the density of cement goes way up, where you're talking about, you know, a grout that is 3% porous, and we haven't added anything to it to make it that dense, right? It's just the natural product that it is. And, you know, again, not made with lime, it's clinkered in the same way. So if you guys know how Portland is made, you know, they take the limestone and they bake it and turn it into these little pellets. And at a certain temperature, it turns into little pellets, and they crush it into a powder and make cement out of it. And so our products are clinkered in that same way, but when crushed and put together, you know, they have so many different properties. They, you know, one of them, like I told you, that they're no lime, so it doesn't have any of that acidic base, right? So if you're talking about grout, for instance, or a mortar bed that's in your shower, you know, that acidity, and it's in a Portland environment, that acidity and that porosity that it has, will store the moisture and then give it a perfect pH to grow stuff, right? And that's the nature of Portland cement, right? That's why we have grout that's just falling out of every wall and looks terrible. And it's not your fault or the customers. It's what it's made out of, right? And so you put that in the customer's wall and then it's storing water, it's growing funky stuff. And what do? They reach under the countertop, right? And they pull out the super acidic stuff or, bleach or acids or whatever tile, brand thing that should never be put on grout. They're spraying it all over, scrubbing it, rinsing it off. It looks good for the next couple weeks. And holy crap, it looks terrible in a couple weeks. And they do that process over and over, which kills their grout, damages everything. And, now everyone hates grout, where this alumina product, you literally don't ever have to seal it. You don't ever have to, do any kind of real maintenance. Yeah, you have to wash it. It'll get dirty like everything, but it's really durable. And it's like, I take little leftovers and I put them in paper cups and I make these little hockey pucks that I bump out of the cup the next day. And I throw acids on it and cleaners on it and CLR on it and all kinds of stuff that is just toxic on grout. And it doesn't chemically interact at all. The stuff's just
wow
to it.
We just have unsealed, like you said. That's amazing.
So we just have that mineral base that's accessible and cheap over there, right? So you go into an American store and you buy a high performance grout product here, is what you're basically buying is you're buying a Portland product that maybe they put 15% or something of a calcium aluminate in there. And so they felt, these manufacturers feel like that, well, hey, I can write, efflorescence free. I can write no sealing required or whatever on the boxes or the bags that they're selling, because at 15% of this product in their Portland, it's the density's risen so much that they feel like they can kind of get away with telling customers that, because it's much more resilient than a Portland product is, right? So you buy one of our bags, it's 100% alumina. It's lifetime, right? So your customer's getting a lifetime grout job, and they like
that's
that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, this might be a silly question.
Yeah.
But do you have silicone here to match the grout?
We do. Yeah.
Okay.
What's interesting about that is it's so hit and miss with who uses silicone. I can't tell you. We probably sell 500 tubes of caulking to every one of silicone, at least.
Okay.
And so we manufacture it. We import it. We bring it here. It matches our grout, but like most people buy caulking. And keep in mind, we're primarily selling on the West Coast right now, where caulking is much more popular. But yes, the quick answer is we do.
Is the caulking also color matched as well?
Yeah,
it is. Okay, yeah. Perfect. Now with the grout color, off the top of your head, how many colors do they have to kind of offer? If you can kind of recall.
We have 26 colors.
Okay.
And I have a grout chart somewhere. I could probably. It's neither here nor there, but I'll grab this one right here. There's one right next to my desk here. Sorry.
No, you're good. Perfect.
So this is our grout charts have real grout samples in them.
See, so that's what I remember somebody telling me that, and that's amazing.
Yeah. So when you get one of our products, it's actually like the real piece, and it has like this little metal channel. It's not going to show it because there you go. So there's grout between a metal channel, and that's actually real grout that a person makes into this channel, and it has the name and whatnot on the back. But these things are super cool for a bunch of different reasons. One of them is that if you've ever had a customer that you installed grout in their wall and they give you a call back the next day and go, hey, this isn't really the color I picked, and you walk in there and you're like, well, remember when we talked about being plastic and it's not quite going to look the same,
right?
And it's an idea of a color, and you're trying to relive that conversation with the customer, and the customer's like, yeah, no, this isn't what I picked. So what do? Do you hold the plastic chip up against the wall and go, we'll see, it kind of matches. If it wasn't plastic and it wasn't slick, it would look like that, right? It's that weird make a sale kind of thing with a customer.
That's my biggest pet peeve with all the other low grout stick kits is it's, like you said, a plastic little thing that you're supposed to give, and they can be off by so much, and that little bit can throw you for a loop, you know what I mean? Or when you're trying to match something pre-existing, even, you know, you're getting something close. Well, then now it's dried, has
Totally
cure time.
different.
It's totally different.
Totally
So
different.
that is awesome. I'm glad y'all are doing it that way.
And the cool part is that, believe it or not, like in the environmental condition that grout is put in can make or break what your brain sees. Part of my job is also being the guy that answers the phone. So if you call, all of our documents and all of our, brochures and all that kind of stuff has a 1-800 number on it. And if you call that 1-800 number, you get me. And I had a lady call me. This is a great example of this. I had a lady call me from Laguna, and she said, hey, I talked to my designer because my grout wasn't the right color. I talked to my sub that did the tile work, and I talked to my general. I talked to the store I bought it from, and they all told me I need to talk to you because apparently when my contractor bought 2 bags to do my bathroom, one of the bags was mislabeled. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. I've been with them now 5 years, and I've literally never seen a product failure ever. And so I'm thinking to myself, wow, today's the day, right? There's always that maybe it's going to be the day, right? And so I'm thinking, wow, today's the day. I don't think that could happen, but hey, prove me wrong, whatever. And so I said, hey, ma'am, would you mind just taking a nice picture of it, make sure the light's on and everything so I can actually see? And I got a text a couple seconds later and was just like, whoa, today's the day. Like it's happening. Okay, we're live. So I made an arrangement with her to be there in a couple days, and I walked in, and she's got like a light gray subway tiles Elige kind of look in her 3 walls of her shower, and she's got a large penny round white floor in there. And I walk in and I'm seeing that the white looks like the right color and the wall does not, and I'm going, holy cow. Okay, well, I'll do a soft entry. And I grabbed my little stick and I stuck it on her floor, and I go, can we agree that's the right color? And she's just like, of course it is. I told you it's not the floor, it's the wall. And I'm like, okay, and I kind of did this number and stuck the stick out against the wall and peeked at it, and holy cow, that's the right color. And she's like, holy cow, the right color. And we're both like literally in disbelief. It doesn't even feel like it's real. And our eyes, because of that light gray color in the wall, our eyes perceived that grout line to be gray, no matter what. It looked so gray. But that off-white stick, when I put up there, matched perfectly. And so, from that point on, I've been like, hey, this is get out of jail free for an installer. If you have a real thing and you can stick it on the wall, it could be their pink wall behind you. It could be their crazy lighting. It could be whatever it is in that house that's making your eye think that it's something different, where this is like, it's dead money every time. So,
what's funny is off topic a little bit, but same, literally today I'm installing black stone tile, all different shades, obviously, but it's comes from the earth. It's literally black stone. It's not manufactured stone. It's literally from the earth. And I showed it to the homeowner 2 weeks ago. No problem whatsoever. I'm cutting it to pieces. I'm installing. She comes in. I said, you like the way it looks, the layout and everything? And she goes, it kind of looks purple to me. And I'm like, purple. I'm like, interesting. But I like you did. I'll have a black mat. I have everything. I put it right next to it. It's black as can be. I'm like, no, that's black. But it's how, like you said, her eyes were going to a different color, and it just naturally, she couldn't shake it. But I could prove it that, look, that is black as can be. It's just more of a matte black than like obviously a gloss black, because it's what the earth gives us. But I love this idea. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a tough part to it, though. The tough part is that those things are $30-something a piece, and so installers and dealers are traditionally like, here's a box of 100. Give them 5 at a time out to every installer, because everybody who touches one's going to have one to pick our colors from, right? And so it puts us in a little bit of a bizarre place, because you guys are used to manufacturers giving you as many as your hands can touch without any, like, sure, take it, and a hat, and a sweater, and a weekend in Cabo, whatever it is, right? They're like, take it. And we're just a small company, and well, no longer, but traditionally we've been just a small company, and those things cost us a lot of money, and we're literally the only continent that gets them. So in Europe, they think we're crazy, because in Europe they have paper brochures that they open up the paper brochure,
God, no. Yeah,
and they pick from 8 different colors, and like, that's what we pick. It's very traditional, though, right? So they have a lot of grays, right? Maybe some warm colors, and that's about it. White, black, some gray, and some warm, and That's all. But
Now,
um,
for me, when I purchase my pallet, I'm just curious, am I able to also purchase one of those grout stick kits as well?
oh yeah,
Or-
you don't have to purchase one. It's not something we make people purchase typically. It's just that we go about it in a little different way. It's like, hey, if you get one of these, hang on to it and don't
Yep.
give pieces to people. Don't leave pieces anywhere. You keep that thing like it's worth
It's the
something.
holy grail. Don't.
It really is. And occasionally you might need a new one every couple of years if it, and to have two of them isn't crazy, but like we're just not giving them to everybody. Basically the way we look at it is if you're a customer of one of these stores that you go in and buy our grout, or you're a designer of one of these stores that are constantly doing your tile orders and your grout orders through that dealer, then we're happy to give you them. But
Awesome.
if you're just somebody who goes, yeah, man, give me a grout chit and I'll take a look at it and maybe I'll use it one day. Dude, we can't.
No,
You're gonna have to use the dealer's pick a color. So yeah, I know that's weird, right? That's just not something we're used to.
No, it's not.
But
Makes perfect sense.
What's the deal on ordering grout? Like, obviously we don't need a pallet of it one single color.
Yeah, it's tough because you would have to order, quite a bit. There's dealers like, for instance, San Diego Marble and Tile is great at this. Jesse, who works at their Encinitas store, he will literally pack you small boxes with grout in it and charge you, what a contractor price is on grout, and plus shipping of $20 or $40 depending on how much you're shipping. So they're, in particular, as a dealer, they're super good about it, and I've used them to ship to New York and Florida and Colorado and Eastern Washington, all over the place, because, I have a personal relationship with them that I can call him and be like, hey, would you mind shipping to there? And they're happy to do it. So
that's awesome.
That can be done, but not our direct pallet program. That's just a pallet only. And there is Amazon too. So it's the bag is, so what Amazon has done is they've made the bag super cheap and the shipping is just as much as the bag. So it ends up being, pretty much retail plus
Like
$5 or something in price. But if you lived out in Wyoming and you needed 20 bags, and that would be a great way to do it, because you could get it for basically retail prices all the way out in Wyoming and have your.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
But as a contractor, that's hard, right? Because we expect to get some kind of a price discount and pay a job fee kind of thing going, not retail. So I get it, but that's the best we can do for now until we have some kind of representation.
Yeah, it's hard to put any markup on a bag that costs that as much as Amazon's charging.
Yeah, well, so we've sold a bunch of Servolite from Amazon too, believe it or not. We've sold a bunch of them, and the bag of Servolite is like, I want to say $47 or something, but shipping's $40.
Yeah,
so it's an $87 bag, but when people get a hold of me on DMs, they're always like, hey, where can I get it? And then I tell them, well, hey, right where you are, we'll only do pallet programs. And they're like, well, I want to try it first. And so I go, okay, well, buy your bag off of Amazon. If you like it and you want to buy a pallet, I'll give you 2 extra bags on top of your pallet to cover the $80 you spent on Amazon or something. I'll make a deal like that, to where now it didn't cost you anything to try it. If you actually tried it and put it in the right scenario, there's no way you don't want to use it. So
that helps you, obviously, and it helps them too. But where Kiesel's not just sending out free products to everybody, and the next thing you know, they're I actually not ready, or they try to milk that. It's like, no, you made it right by sweetening the deal. So I mean, try it out, you'll love it, and then commit, get these nice pallets so you have them to use, and then naturally, like you said, you sweeten the deal. That's awesome. I like that idea.
I fully intend to get a pallet once I can store it in this little place right here, but I want to say the cleanup the next day is super easy. Cleaning out your grout joints.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
If you really want to have your mind kind of blown with this stuff, whatever membrane you have laying around, cut 3 little strips, 3 inches by 10 inches or something, and trowel out some of our products and put the 3 strips on it, and go pull the strip the first day, go pull the strip the second day, go pull the strip the third day, and see what you got. It's really cool stuff, because in that first 12 to 24 hour period, we've lost all of our moisture, but yet we're not hard. We're still cement, right? We need 28 days, but we go through this kind of insane feeling cycle where the first day it almost has like a stiff marshmallowy kind of thing, almost like a stale one. So it still has a little bit of the bounce to it and cleans up super easy. Comes out of everything. It washes off still with water. It's nice. The second day, it's like, okay, I can still get it out easy and save it, right? The third day, it's done. It's hard. So I always say use membranes to test that, because most membranes, your pull test is at 3 days. That's where you are going to pull and see what kind of adhesion you got. So the first day it's just going to right off. The second day is going to be kind of hard. The third day it's like get a chisel. It's not coming off.
Yeah, man.
It's pretty unique.
It's definitely my favorite I've ever used right off the bat. And like we used it on this shower we just did, and it had a 5-foot bench and a 5-foot niche, and I wanted to make all the tiles hit right at the top of the bench and right with the niche. And so we started at the top of the bench and worked our way down first, and no ledger all the way across. I mean, nothing sliding. And same thing with the top of the niche, just stuck them and just moved on. I mean, it was great.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of it, right? Some of the beauty of it is that you're no longer limited by where you have to start or where you should start because of sag or anything else. So, that's why I just saw you were pulling Kip up. It looked like he was entering. We teased Kip. I did a little reel that teased him a little bit for his ledger just because, Tile Bro was egging me on. But that's the beauty of it, is that now we're into laser setting, or we're like, if you have a window that you're working on, that everything you want to reveal perfectly, and then you can miter and have everything perfect in your window, and then backfill all your field tile, or whatever, however it is you want to lay it up. One of the first big customers we had in California, it was you see their Instagram as Epic Stone and Ceramic. They're a monster out here, and they do incredible work. And I did a demo for him one morning, and a guy had a herringbone to do, and it was like an 11x3 or something, and it was obnoxious and big and everything. And I'm like, hey dude, put it to the test, start it from the left top corner or something and go from there. And they were all like rolling their eyes and nothing can do it. And they went to work and they did it and called us back, and we're like, holy cow, like that's the real deal. So they did it from top to bottom.
Nice. Sometimes
Andrew
it just
and Kurt
makes more sense to start at the top.
What's that?
Well, I said Andrew and Kurt just joined in, and Andrew asked if you're at the Berlin Wall.
Oh, yeah. 9.
Oh, too good. Sorry, I had to ask. Just to got some comments coming in.
I knew that was going to come. How can I see comments? All right.
There we go. No, probably not. It's a little hard. So on our feeds right now, we got Amos as well as on here. Amos asked you, Kyle, how you liked it. So tell him how the bags are.
It was awesome, man. It's the best thin set out there. It's no joke.
You're hooked now.
It's not just a social media gimmick. We're trying to sell you stuff. It's really the best thin set I've ever used. It's worth the money to get the pallet if you got a place to put it.
See, that's where I'm literally getting a storage unit, or not a storage unit necessarily, but getting a little shed in the back to put the bikes in, to put the lawnmower, all the stuff. I'm cleaning out my area because I don't park my truck in my second bay. That's where I store all my tools. So it's going to be nice. I'm going to end up putting the pallet there after getting it delivered to one of these commercial. So it'll be good.
As soon as I get my house finished, I moved out of my apartment. My apartment's becoming a just tile warehouse. And
yeah, it happens.
Pallets of stuff.
It happens.
He's invited me to come stay in it though, so I'm going to end up getting to stay in the warehouse. It sounds like.
Nice.
Well, the bed is lofted, so you can just. I'm not moving the bed. You can still sleep up there.
Love it.
Nice.
Love it.
Jeff, you can come too.
Hey, that's going to be more comfortable than sleeping in the garage. So.
I'll only come if I can bring Kurt with me.
Oh, there you go.
Yes. I don't have I don't
Hard
have two
tab.
beds, so dirty bed, clean bed. There's no.
Okay.
Amos says he's got 16 bags left, so it sounds like he's going to be using them and then most likely giving you a call, it sounds like.
So I want to touch base on what Kyle said too. He's like, dude, it cleans up so good the next day. Part of that is that, so one, we have no latex in any of our products at all. So, you know, when you're fighting grout haze or next day cleanups or something like that, it's typically the latex that you're fighting more than anything. So, you know, the Europeans have known for a really long time that acrylic is the superior glue, right? And you know, if you guys are young guys, but like the old guys, they'll always come up to me and say like, oh, when I was young, you know, we had basic cement and then we had these bottles that we called milk and they're plastic bags and you squeezed out this milk into our cement, and there's what that was acrylic, right? So like the old guys knew back in the day. The old guys knew you used acrylic back in the day, and then all of a sudden, you know, we got this newfangled modified thin sets here that have latex in them, and so everybody's gone that route. But that's what you're fighting when you have things that, like, if you got grout haze, you have latex haze that has the same colorant in it that the grout does. So of course it appears to be grout. It's not grout though. You know, you guys know what the powdery substance of cement will do in the bottom of your bucket. You wipe it right off, rinse it right out, and you know, dump it out. It's that it's that blue portion that's stained the same color that appears to be grout but isn't. So we only use acrylic in our products. It cleans up super well. Again, it is the superior glue when you're talking about bonding to your substrate. We all know of the uncoupling machine that came out here and demanded that we didn't use modified cements to put down these uncoupling membranes, right? And the reason being is they went, holy smokes, America only uses latex. Like, we can't have that be on our substrate. That's terrible. We'll get failures, right? And so that's why, you know, the era of non-modified came with uncouplings in America, right? So
interesting. Okay.
So here's something to think about as well, is that like every uncoupling product you're buying right now, if it isn't from China, is a European product, right? They all originated in Europe. There was like 4 basic manufacturers of them that would build everybody's products for them. And obviously you say, okay, I want, you know, I want turquoise and I want my block system to look like this. And it's proprietary to me, and no one else can get that. And that's my color. And everyone knows me as that. So these houses were just manufacturing them for everybody. And you get your own design and your own look. But the part that everybody's missing here is that when you go to Europe and you buy a bag of thin set, well, you're going to buy an aluminum product because that's what everyone's making. And you're going to buy something with acrylic in it because that's what everyone's using. And you're going to buy something that is S1 rated, at least, like I told you earlier. That's that deformability thing, right? So all these membrane systems were designed with a certain type of cement that everybody used. And so when you think about it, your uncoupling system that you're installing there as a slip sheet or whatever, something that's made to build in structure, or it's just made as a single membrane layer, whatever it is, that was all intended to be used as a 3-piece system with flexible mortars, right? So it was meant to have a flexible mortar underneath it, a membrane, and a flexible mortar over the top of it in order to really have that uncoupling effect of everything having mobility and being able to move. And it's almost like a mandatory thing when you're talking about putting down, you know, a 48 by 48 or a 39 by 39, whatever those larger format size are. That's why all this stuff came about. And the thing is like here in America, we're getting the trickle down of, you know, thin gauge porcelain panels for showers, of Decton panels for showers, of large formats to set on floors, whatever. We're getting all that trickle down style now. But the only reason that style exists is because they had the cements to do it. Where we're trying to do that with things where manufacturers are bragging about being 3 or 4 times above the necessary shear rating to hit an ANSI number. And it's like, ooh, wait a second. Why do we want a really stiff mortar underneath our porcelain panels or our uncoupling? That's counterintuitive, right? Because without all those grout seams everywhere, like the brick behind me here, you know, that's the portion that can kind of accept the stress of your walls moving. And without that, and having that whole panel behind me be one single piece, now that panel takes the load of the movement of the house or the movement of the substrate, whatever it might be. So it's super important at that point that you have something of an isolation mortar, basically, where it's the protection for the tile to not just pop off or break in half or split, whatever. You guys have all seen porcelain.
Oh yeah.
Break, right? It's not a pretty thing.
Nope.
So that's a necessary, component to this. And it's just something that, like, it's being totally overlooked here. We're like, I always kind of equate what we got going on here to being the casino. Like, all the manufacturers here are playing casino. None of them in particular, but maybe all of them. And that, they're making their own rules here. Everybody, if you read our instructions for installers, what we have to abide by as installers, you go read those instructions, and if you're like, okay, I want to do a staircase, okay, I'm going to go read all these details on what a proper build is on a staircase, and at the very end of it, what's that? Oh, it says refer to your manufacturers for recommendations. It's like, oh, okay, so there is no real rules. It's just whatever this manufacturer tells you that you can do is okay.
Yeah.
And so what I mean is they're playing casino, is they know, well, geez, if we get 100% of the business in our local area here, who cares if 15% of them fail? We'll send them a pallet of thin set and make them feel real good about us backing them up, and they can eat it, and they can do their staircase over again. And we're still good. We've sold everybody the stuff. Yeah, one guy hit the jackpot, but like, who cares? We made so much money off all the suckers that walked in our casino that it's fair game. Like, we'll take it.
Well, I love how y'all have the perfect record, like you said, not having any failures, which is amazing.
And I'm not saying that is something that, like, we're touting or anything. That's just my reality right now, right? So that's not something that
is amazing.
Like, what you guys ought to know this yourselves. As installers, you got to know that, like, very rarely is it ever going to be a product failure. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes, right? So it's most likely going to be a user error. It's going to be something where something waterproofing got punctured, or some kind of something, an edge wasn't silicone. You got a bunch of moisture behind it. Now the grout's all dark and it's got, and things are looking weird, and you're, and so there's always a reason. And
bleach.
Yeah, and I typically hate to say it, but it's typically an installation error. So they know that they can dang near get away with all kinds of crazy stuff, and most likely it won't be them, but there's a chance it could be. And if it is, they just eat it and send you a bunch of free stuff and pat you on the back, tell you good job. So I mean, that's just not our way.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, Zeph. So one of our comments just came in. They were wanting to know about the self-leveling system. Can you kind of touch on that as well?
Yeah, well, we don't have a system, so to speak. We do in Europe, but so here, I'm assuming they mean self-leveling as a bag product of cement. So our self-leveler, it's called KI1, and it's made of the same stuff. So it's alumina cement. So I already talked about kind of the durability of alumina and its density, and its way higher qualities than Portland has. One of the things that we kind of are really unique in this space is that A, we can go over OSB and plywood, and B, we can actually feather to zero. So, most levelers, of course, are made out of Portland-based products. And so in order to achieve any kind of density, they have to have a minimum thickness. Yep. And even with that minimum thickness, you'll notice that it's still chalky. It still wants to absorb a lot of water. It's still packed with VOCs and stuff, because if you've ever leveled a bathroom, you know that the neighbors knew that you were leveling a bathroom, right? Because stuff stinks. So it's unique in that we also have this kind of this little bag of, it's kind of a fiberglass additive, and we had it built as far as size wise for our products, where no matter the thickness, if we're up to an inch or we're down to zero, it'll literally float in the middle. It won't drop to the bottom. It won't go to the top. So it doesn't affect the surface. But what it does is it lays in your pour like this. And so when you're leveling over wood and you're leveling over things that have maybe flexibility, it acts as a certain rigidity to keep that product from being able to bend or break. So it's It's really unique, and we're still like it's a recent product that we've brought back. We had it 5 years ago at Vero Systems when we had our own import department and our own kind of distribution going on that we outgrew. And as we switched into Tile Shop's distribution, we dropped a couple products. They wanted to keep it real simple to see if it was a feasible product line here, and it's more than proven its feasibility now. Now we're just stacking on new products.
So Andrew just commented that it works great, but then he also said you also have a great perimeter seal as well. So that kind of obviously goes around, and before you pour this, then you're good to go.
Well, I was thinking that maybe Drew had stock options or something in spray foam because he uses a lot of that.
He commented that. He says almost as good as spray foam. So, a little dig there, but yeah, no. So that's where I was just curious. So I hadn't heard
I get it. No, we haven't had it in a really long time. We just got it back, and like most people don't even know what it is. So it's not really like a big selling item, but we do have it in stock, Drew, if you want to pick some up. It's pretty cool because it gives you that, gap between your wall and your tile, the natural foam barrier that's built into it. And then it has an adhesive that goes down onto the floor that seals up great. And so it allows for the movement in your floor, and it allows also to trap the leveler inside of that tape unit. So you don't have to spray foam anything, but yeah,
I've been doing the Amos Houseworth trick where I use my leftover foam board and the sealant and just glue a bunch of those down around the room, glue them together. If your drywall's not in already, and it's high enough. See, I just did a curbless. We did them high enough to where they sat about 1.5 inches above the actual floor, but baseboard covered the seam.
Yeah.
So it kind of creates like a waterproof dam as well.
Are you pulling them when you're done? Are you pulling them when you're done?
No.
Ooh, yeah. You guys should be pulling them.
Talk about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that whole joint, that whole space is to allow that floor to contract and move, right? And you jam that little piece of, cement coated foam on each side, or whatever kind of coated foam that you have, and you're kind of, I mean, unless you have a pretty squishy one, you're eliminating its ability to move correctly, right? So then you might get peaking or something like that as a failure, because the tile doesn't have the ability to shrink or contract maybe in the manner it should. So you see it more. You see it more.
Schluter is what you're saying.
What's that?
So you Schluter board for it is what you're saying.
Well,
I didn't say that.
You didn't say that, but Amos, he just said use. Yeah, that's what he was trying to say.
Whatever.
So,
whatever it is.
So that's perfect.
Yeah,
Drew, and that product that you were talking about works great. He said the only thing he would say bad about it is he can't pretend like he's jacking it off like those cans of foam. So that's one of his comments on here. So, good old Andrew for you. Classic Andrew.
If you could make them more jackable, you'd sell more on the West Coast.
Yeah. Okay. I'll keep that in mind, Andrew. I'll pass that on up.
No, you don't need to do that. So, all right. So let's talk. We didn't touch about the. Well, Amos also had a video out where he did the what was it, underlay. So can you kind of touch on that? We haven't touched on that at all.
Yeah. So that's called Oka Quiet, and that's another kind of testament to our green products. And without sounding like a broken record, it's 91% recycled product, and what it is it's this little 4mm board, and the board is a bunch of different things. So it's basically a replacement for cement backer boards on floors. And instead of using a cement backer board and packing up, big heavy sheets and cutting it and making a big dust cloud and everything else, you have these little 4mm sheets that come in about 100 square foot in a little box that you can put under your arm, walk upstairs, and it cuts like sheetrock. So you scribe one side, you break it, you scribe it from the back side. Now you're cut pieces, you lay it in kind of a brick pattern. But what it does is that, one, with thin set on it, you don't screw it. You only thin set it down or wood glue it down or whatever product you're putting it under. But it becomes basically structural, right? So it becomes added structure. You can put it over ply. And it's also 10 dBs of sound deadening. It's an uncoupling membrane. So it's like the trifecta of, building in stability, sound deadening, and uncoupling all in one. And so it's a little, it's very unique. We make the same kind of membranes everybody else does too, right? So, but to bring them here to America just seems kind of asinine to us. There's so many options here already. It's like we don't need to play in that arena. We're only going to kind of bring you guys something that is different and maybe more applicable in a different situation. But even on like a concrete floor, it adds R value. It makes your tile super quiet. If you've ever walked on a hollow uncoupling membrane on a second story with tile in a house, you would know it's super loud. One of our reps in Sacramento did her whole house in another membrane, and used all of our products with attaching them and putting tile in and grout and everything else. But like, I've been to her house multiple times where when she's walking around her second story, it is super echoey and loud because tile isn't quiet. And then you add it on the second story and it's super loud. So this is aimed at kind of that market where we're trying to make things quiet. And again, we're not just pumping in a bunch of more plastic. It's a recycled product. It's all recycled carpet and recycled clothing. It's polyester products.
Awesome. So it's not fiberglass or anything like that, because obviously there's other companies out there where, yes, sure, it's light, but when you're cutting it and you're scoring snapping it, you've got to wear a mask. You've got to wear, you start getting irritations on your skin. So that's really good to know. I love this.
Well, and you notice more and more companies are going to like a rectangle type of product and not a rolled product, right? That's something that we're seeing more and more of. And there's a few reasons why. Is if you've ever put a rolled product down, you know that it has an unspringing. Yeah, it when it was rolled up, it was hot, and so it's basically stuck in that position. When you unroll it, you want to put bags of thin set on it, or buckets on it, or things on it to hold it down, so you don't get the wavy gravy look the next day. That some of it's attached. Yeah, some of it's attached, some of it isn't. It's kind of sketchy. So that they lay this Oka Quiet stuff lays so flat and like beautiful. So that's kind of one of the highlights, and it's one of the reasons other manufacturers are going in that direction, because it's a complaint that everybody's had about a rolled product. So yeah,
that's good to know. Good to know. Yeah, that's something that definitely I've seen lots of times where, like I said, it's got memory, you're fighting it, and even with a good roller, if you're not careful about that, you're squishing all what's underneath it out, and then depending on how you've weighed it down, you can come back the next day and it's a pain in the ass. So and you're almost having to redo stuff, because I don't sleep good at night unless I know everything's done correctly. So I want to make sure, obviously, the customer gets what they're paying for, and I don't have to worry about anything failing. So I like this idea.
What's the availability and accessibility of that in the States?
Everywhere. So anywhere you can buy one of our products can get you that product, or we could even, if you get a pallet of Servolite or whatever, we can stack it on top of the pallet, and that's something we do sell by the box. So anytime you ordered a pallet, let's say, you could always put grout on top of it, or uncoupling on top of it, or another thin set on top of it if you want to try some different products, whatever it might be. We'll always put something on top of a pallet, but we just can't do a mixed pallet. So that's the only
that makes sense.
Okay.
And just so you guys know, I'm terrible at that. I don't know, to be honest with you. I think it's mid-dollar something. It's not cheap, but it's not too drastically expensive. But part of what I was going to tell you guys is that I didn't want to miss this, is that if you're doing the pallet program and ordering a pallet, when you get that first pallet and any pallet since then, you actually get all kinds of samples put on top of that pallet. So we'll give you a couple bags of each of the other stuff we sell, and we'll put buckets on top of it, because I told you we need those big 7 gallons to do some of these products.
Awesome. Heck yeah.
We put on some additional stuff to try to, we want you to try that pallet and go, of course I'm going to order this forever, but now I also want a pallet of that other thing or whatever, because I could use that on these scenarios, right? So we're trying to encourage you guys trying more and more, products of ours by obviously giving you guys some extra stuff.
He loves those buckets. So that's awesome. So these are the 7-gallon that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, the big ones.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Oh man, I'm getting excited now.
Yeah. It's super cool stuff, and that Oka Quiet's cool. I mean, you can even, like, if you're doing wood floor, you can put Oka Quiet down with wood glue. Use wood glue over the top of it and put your wood floors in. If you're doing, if you're doing carpet, you can literally cut it out so it fits inside your carpet tack strips and just duct tape the seams together and have a floating dampening membrane underneath there. So just as sound deadening, right? So it's super universal. It goes with, you can put click floor on it or whatever kind of flooring. It's not just tile only product. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, we touched on a lot of products. Are there anything that we haven't necessarily touched on that you would like to?
I just kind of want to drive home the point that, I don't know if everybody was on here before, just like I was saying, just the non-caustic thing. Us being the only company that's, basically made for installers, your life to get easier, right? Because your installations go simply when they stay where they're put. And B, they're healthy products without caustic chemicals in it. I think that's a point we want to drive home over and over, because whether it's your designers that are picking out stuff or it's your homeowners that are purchasing it, it's something that's becoming more and more, necessary for us to provide, I think, for people. And if, as a former, tradesperson myself, I can tell you I had numerous jobs where customers didn't want VOCs. I was at a job in La Jolla where a customer had all solid wood cabinets made, even the whole boxes. Everything was solid wood. It was no ply, no nothing, because money wasn't an object, but their health was. That was something that they didn't want. They didn't want any formaldehydes. They didn't want any things in their houses. They checked every label and got every TDS sheet of everything installed in their house and made sure that literally every product was VOC free and free of chemicals and free of caustic chemicals. So that stuff's becoming, obviously that's kind of a niche area, but like it's becoming more and more common, where it's like, it should be the right thing to do. I mean, you guys as installers, you shouldn't want to be putting chemicals on your body every day, right? It's something that if you ever want to see, your grandkids and everything else grow up, you should be doing stuff, to make sure that that's going to happen, and it's not going to be your trade that kills you. So,
right.
Yeah, that's a super important part that we're driving home, and we want to take advantage of the fact that we're that only company, and B, something that, we get a lot of, here's a great topic actually that we can talk about for a minute. I get a lot of comments where like, $50 something a bag. Like, are you insane? I can buy something for $15 at Home Depot. And something that a lot of guys just cannot wrap their head around is that, well, first of all, that kind of stuff should be bid into your jobs, and you should be using the right product for the products being installed in the first place, just right off the giddy up. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people use $15 bags to even a 12 by 24 that is considered large format and should never have those mortars underneath them, right? But nonetheless, you can't spend that much money on mortars. So first off, let's if it's happening in your neck of the woods, I'm totally wrong. But I've never really seen bids that were all within $20 or $50 of each other. It's always like, well, there's a guy that's $2,000 more. There's a guy somewhere in the middle, and a guy that's $1,000 less, whatever that might be, right? So let's get real. People aren't picking you based on your sundries being $50 more for the bathroom. Okay. So Second, let's use the right products for the job, one, and two, let's use products that actually make you guys more efficient, right? And like I said before, healthier products, but nonetheless, your efficiency, your time is everything, because you're getting paid by the time, really. But the biggest thing is that you can't compare our bag to any bag that you formerly used, and there's a few reasons why. And this is a super good point that is Kiesel unique, and that is that when you open up that 27-pound bag you have up there on your countertop, what you're not opening up is a bag of sand. Literally, like, it's nano. Everything in that bag is a nanoparticle, so there is no aggregate filler. And so what you'll notice is read the side of the bag. There's a little picture over there where it's got a little bucket with water on it, and it says how many gallons to put in it. What does the bag say next to you? Can you see?
Oh, let me see.
There's a picture on the side of it. There you go.
Oh, yep. So we got approximately 7 liters, 12.5 kilograms is what it says. So about 1.8 US gallons to the 2.7, the 25 an hour or something.
Okay, so that 27.5 pound bag is 1.8 gallons to hydrate it. Okay, so what does that tell you? If we're trying to figure this out and be smart, it tells me that, okay, so if that was a 50-pound bag, that stuff takes 3.4 gallons to hydrate in a 50-pound bag. Have you ever heard of anything taking 3.4 gallons to hydrate? No, you haven't. No. Okay, so what we're buying in America is that typically what you'll find in read TDA sheets. That's how I've learned a lot of this stuff, is reading other people's product sheets. So if I buy a $15 bag at Home Depot and I buy the $60 bag at Home Depot, or the $100 bags in some cases, is what I find out is that when I read these TDS sheets, 95% of the product in there is exactly the same. But what they do is on the $15 bag, they're selling you 2/3 of a bag or 3/4 of a bag of sand with a quarter of the product of the stuff you're trying to buy, right? And you're looking at the water ratio and you're like, holy, under a gallon, right?
Yep.
Oh, so what does it tell you? So under a gallon, that means sand does not hydrate, right? It's inert. So if I stick it in a bucket of water, it doesn't take any water and it just adds volume to that bucket of water. And so with sand being inert, it doesn't need to be hydrated. The cement portion does. So if I'm at under a gallon of cement portion in that bag, well, that means that that little bag over there has 4 times more cement, and it's only 27.5 pounds of product. But we're comparing it to a 50-pound bag that takes, a quarter of the amount of water. So now you get into the more expensive, you might get, 2/3 of a bag of sand or a half a bag of sand, depending on how expensive you get. Because we're not using anything necessarily too different that our hydration's off the scale. It's just that there's so much of the stuff in that bag that is hydratable that it consumes water. So when I tell you that little bag over there, last Wednesday, I think it was, I went to a Constantino demo and I taught everybody how to install large format panels. And I had a 33-pound bag of that Servolite S2. And I had a 40 square foot piece of Decton to install in a wall. Well, I used a 3/8 inch trowel and I back buttered the whole Decton panel with a 3/8 trowel. And then I turned around and I did the wall with a whole 3/8 trowel. It took less than a bag to do 80 square feet.
Oh, that's amazing. That's unheard of.
That was a 33-pound bag that I did over 80 square feet with, right? So our claim on that little, bag that we have was like, the bag I was using, our claim was we do 64 square feet on a 3/8 trowel. So I more than, outperformed what we claimed as far as the square footage of it. So that gives you an idea now. Now that gets all the way back to the root of what I was talking about. And that is, how do you compare my bag price to there? Well, I can tell you how you compare it. Well, it's more than 2 to 1. So you think it's expensive that you had to spend $50 on a bag of Servolite or whatever it is. Well, I just told you about how many square feet it is. It's, you'd be lucky to get 42, 43 square feet out of most 50-pound bags.
Yep. That's exactly right.
So I just doubled it with a 33-pound bag. So that ought to give you an idea of, okay, so when we take things across the ocean and we pay shipping on it and we do, you put it in a warehouse and we transport it all over the place, what in the hell would we want 3/4 of a bag of sand for? Like that, to sell it for $15, right? It makes no sense. Yep. What we're trying to sell you is the highest quality content that we can sell you with none of that extra stuff that you're not trying to pay for, so that's a reason why I can tell you comfortably that we're not more money than, no matter what you think, we're not more money than other things that are out there. Matter of fact, in a lot of cases, we're less money.
I crunched the numbers today because of the one particular brand I have been using. And from what I've been getting it from the distributor, even with my 25% discount, it's more than what I'm paying for this. And that's why I started saying, okay, I've already been wanting to commit for this whole pallet program period. And then naturally, when I crunched the numbers on what I was going to spend for 27 bags, it was, like I said, half the cost of the pallet. And yet I'm still going to have another 2/3, give or take, left. So that's where and I didn't realize about how it was, so much better for me, essentially. So I'm excited. This is awesome.
to add to that, the stuff's going to way outperform what you thought you needed for that job too. So not only are you going to have leftover for the job, but you're going to have more than you thought left over because you probably estimated the same way you estimate always to do your
Oh
jobs.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Material. So keep that in mind too. So, we're not talking apples to apples when we're trying to compare price across the board, because the only way that you can truly do that is go, okay, well, I typically use product X, and I know for a fact I get, X amount square feet out of that. And now I just did the same project with Servolite, and I calculated how many square feet exactly it was. I knew how much I used, and now I actually break the cost down to price per square foot. And
Yep.
when you get into price per square foot, we are extremely middle of the road as far as pricing for a bag of thinset goes. Retail. I like to say retail numbers, because we once did a comparison across the board, just on manufacturers, what they say that they get per square feet. Okay, so if brand A says we get 90 square feet on a 1/4 inch trowel, I went and I looked at mine, I put it into a spreadsheet. Okay, on a 1/4 inch trowel, we say we got 120. So I did all the math on everything just based on what we claim and what they claim. And on a retail level, if you went and bought full customer retail, we were 38 cents a square foot. And so that's basically like equivalent to more of the $35 bags.
Yeah.
In the industry. So it starts.
It's almost like the buying organic or buying the other one. Sure, the other one's nice, it's nice and cheap, but is it good for you? Like you said, they're pumping in other chemicals into it and stuff like that you're not necessarily, you probably shouldn't be intaking. So you've got so many things going for you that I didn't really realize as well. So this has been really educational. I love this.
It is super unique to our space. It is literally the unicorn going on right now. There's literally nothing like it. And unfortunately for the installers, the crazier we're getting with the products that we're putting on the walls, the crazier the manufacturers are getting with caustic chemicals. So the reason being is that those are all necessary to get Portland mortars to try to dry behind super large format tiles, because Portland doesn't want to do it. Portland needs CO2 to be able to cure. So that's an ingredient that's now missing when you put a giant panel over the top of it. You might find that around your grout lines, it cures just around it a couple inches, but it's still a big putty ball underneath the center of the tile. Right?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So the more that they need from the tiles, whether it's non-sag or it's, drying or whatever, the more they pump in the caustic chemicals to make all these reactions happen at a certain level or a certain stage of hardness. And you can see that clearly when you comb it off on the wall and you let it sit there for 20 minutes. You can see that clearly when you let your tools sit for 20 minutes with the products on it. You can see it clearly when your buckets had residue around the top of the bucket for 20 minutes. Look at what it looks like on your hands. Look at what it looks like on your tools. Look at what it looks like on your walls. How does it clean up? It becomes super apparent that like the harder that stuff is to work with, like in that respect of cleaning, you can damn near put 2 and 2 together that's probably the most caustic thing you're touching that day. So
interesting.
George, the easier
GZX, he said the product is great. So there's another one that's vouching for you guys. So this is awesome. I love it. Omar from BCR Flooring said he hasn't tried it out yet, so he's going to be looking into it right away. Awesome. So this is going to be good. So this is what we're hoping for: spread the knowledge around, get some more people to know. And this is the good thing about social media, not only for us to all connect like this, but to showcase and to kind of get to the other people that haven't seen it. Because before, you had to know somebody that knew somebody and all the above, you know what I mean? So this is kind of utilizing a tool that we have these days that I love it. So,
just so everybody knows, if you're, I get it a lot where it's not in my area, I can't use it. If you have the capacity to buy a pallet, it's not the craziest investment. I know it's not everybody has that kind of money sitting around, but it's not the craziest investment. You've heard the benefits of it for that investment, but feel free to reach out and DM me. We can make something happen in your area and get you settled in on it and get you trying it. And one thing I want to point out is that a lot of you guys know who we are because of Andrew, because of Tile Bro, because of Georgie, because of all these guys. And that was something organic that happened amongst everybody. We didn't go out to them and say, hey, can we pay you to make posts on this? We didn't. There was none of that. They literally stumbled on it at San Diego Marble and Tile, for starters. And obviously those guys are likable, and you start vibing with those guys, and next thing you know, they were drinking beers with us on our off time, or hanging out and talking shop or whatever it is. And they've chose to use it because they think it's the best product. And I say that because they've told me that, and we can't pay them. We don't have the budgets to pay them. We don't do anything like that. So it's just organically what it is. And I would have to understand if someone wanted to pay them a lot of money that they took the money. I get it, but it's like, for now,
this goes back to what we obviously last week, like we said, we had Andrew on, we had Kip on as well, and we asked Kip, and somebody asked him, and we all said our answers as well was, would money kind of, like, obviously, like you said, money, would you use a product because they're paying you? And no, everybody gave the honest answer of no. We want to use products that we're comfortable with using, that we can pitch, and that we believe in. So, yeah. I mean, the same way, obviously, you become fake, you become, a sellout, essentially, in my mind, if you're pushing something that you're not actually truly backing. You know what I mean? You're saying, oh, this is great. I don't love it. So, I mean, I'm excited about it.
If you're really in this industry, who's got time to back a product that you don't believe in?
Well, yeah. So the
Instagram clout.
Yeah. So the bottom line is that although they're making a ton of content, they're installers. Like, they have to work with this stuff every day. They have to be able to function on a level that makes them money, right? So it's not like, they're not billionaires off of Instagram, right? So they're not just making it for fun and to be the coolest tile, influences. They make a living doing tile. And so, to be productive, to be able to accomplish the tasks that they want to accomplish without having to do more work and all the fringe benefits, then I mean, that's part of the reason why they've chose it as well, right? And I think that
the product's also going to help us as installers, not only health wise, but make us more money too, because like you said, I'm whipping up this bag, well, I'm getting more square footage, so I'm not having to stop and go and mix as much. I'm not having to take time to put a ledger board on, so there's lots of things that adds up that you're not really accounting for until you start getting your hands dirty with it, that you understand that. So I'm excited.
And no more related grout color issues, because the stuff being self-curing in 12 hours you can grout. So there's so many of those little fringe benefits that even I forget about because I talk about it all the time. But there's so much installer-driven positive things that happen with these products that is it's all about you guys. It really is about your time.
You said the other one that's more rapid set too. You're good to go for grout in 4 hours, if I remember right. So that's amazing. Yep. So I mean, if you're doing a little patch job, you're doing something that just needs you to move a little quicker, depending on commercial work, or you're doing other things, and that's your winner right there. You know what I mean? So that's awesome.
For sure. And that's something that's not really made for a guy like Georgie. And what I mean is that George works by himself, and he's tinkering and doing his work, and he doesn't have a guy mixing mud for him. He doesn't have a guy doing cuts for him. He doesn't have a guy. So for him to put a pot of mud in there that only has an hour and 15-minute window,
you better have stuff to cut.
Doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? Servolite makes a hell of a lot of sense for him because he can just tinker for 3.5 hours and get away with it. But where it will shine is it'll shine doing membranes. If you got to lay down 300 or 400 feet of membranes in a couple hours, you can just bang that stuff out and then be walking on it in 4 hours.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
I love it.
Just work.
Little projects too.
You'd be grouting by the next day if you're working.
Yeah. Andrew doesn't like it, and because he says it's not Servolite. So now Andrew's to the point where it's if it's not Servolite, get it out of your face. And I understand. I understand he's spoiled with Servolite, right? So I've brought him a couple products, a couple times and let him try new things, and he's always like, wow, why it's not Servolite? And that goes all the way back to the beginning of our conversation of well, Servolite and Trio are 25 years old. There's a reason we haven't tried to replace them, right? Because they're still better than anything else on the market.
See, oh, I love it. Well, I'm going to be making a reel tomorrow. I'll be showcasing it. Anything you want me to touch on my reel, obviously, or just let me work my magic, or what are you thinking?
To work your magic, yeah. you know, this is we'd rather feed you good products than feed you chicken at a tile store, you know, and kill you with our products. So
Love it.
we're truly, you know, your only option when it comes to healthier alternatives for this kind of stuff. We're the only one in the States, so I just like to make that
Appreciate
one,
that.
beating that one into the ground, but that's where
Dollar
we are.
Well,
Appreciate
there's
that because a lot of this stuff really stinks really bad.
Yeah. No, I know.
I love
So-
it. I love it.
Talk about the
I'm
floor
excited.
leveler. I mean, floor leveler will stink for days. It's
Oh, yeah.
unreal. Some
So, you know,
weeks.
on that topic, we had a guy at a demo come up to our demo we were doing. We were with a bunch of manufacturers at one of these Christmas fairs at a dealer, right? And I mixed up leveler. I showed everybody you can work on our leveler in 2 hours, so you can start walking on it in an hour and 15 minutes. So it's
Oh wow, that's super.
it's got about a 40-minute open time of being able to work on it and use it, but after that it goes into super radical acceleration, and it's walkable and workable in 2 hours. And so
Wow.
I had
So it
a
goes
demo.
up to an inch.
Yep, up to an inch.
Does it go deeper with an aggregate or?
You can add 13 pounds of sand to it if you want to add, you know, basic volume to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't change what our maximum is, right? But one thing that happened there at that event is that the guys were like, "Oh, you just poured that when we showed up, and it's hard. You're walking on it," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's totally ready to go." And he goes, "Yeah, but it still stinks, right?" And he grabbed my bucket and he put his head in it. It was just like, "Hey, wait, like, where'd the smell go?" There's zero smell because we don't have the caustics or VOCs, right? So he's literally can't smell anything. And he's like going, "Well, what the hell, you know?" So I mean, I can use this in people's houses that are picky and all. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's part of it." But to finish it is what we like to do with our demos. And maybe Dustin Morgan might have put this up. I don't know if he did or not, but I did a demo for a tile store up in his area who's considering being a Kiesel dealer, and I poured that thing, and then we talked about the rest of our products. And then when I was done, about an hour and 15 minutes later, we pulled the forklift in and we drove back and forth over my self leveler that was on a piece of Hardy backer board, and it never broke, never split, it's intact. So it's not something you can do with levelers. Levelers will typically just disintegrate into like a powdery, you know, rock quarry. So
well, then once again, you can't feather them either. They have to have a minimum. So I mean, you've got so many things involved in this stuff. Oh, this is great. And like you said, it's not new technology. It's been around. So it's not like, hey, we're just popping this out and there's no R&D behind it. It's been proven, and now we're getting a chance to get it. So I mean, I'm excited. That's awesome.
It's cool stuff, man. You know, over there in Europe, there's a lot of, you know, all the other brands out there that are here in America, even doing the same kind of thing we are. They all have the same kind of stuff over there, right? So it's nothing new to them. But when they come to America, they actually just find a blending house here and materials here that they can use. They all basically came here and went, "Wow, you can get away with that." Like, okay, so we'll do that. You know, we'll make it a little better than what they're used to, and you know, it'll be high quality. And so that's what's kind of happened here. You know, over there, you know, they'd be considered a Porsche or an Audi or something. They're all really high end products too, but we're considered that one little brand that is like the super boutique, you know, Bugatti or, you know, Lambo or something like that. We're like the one-off little brand that doesn't do what they do, but does it all like spectacularly.
Oh, that's awesome. Just so you know, Derek just joined as well. So what's up, Derek? He's the one that he runs the Canada division, if everybody's curious.
So Zach, Derek is Kiesel Canada.
Let them know in case they aren't following you. Obviously, it's going to be Kiesel USA. That way they can get a hold of you, DM you, and then personally get any questions asked, or if they got any product wanting to order, kind of get that ball rolling with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, they can DM me anytime. If they're in Derek's neck of the woods in Canada listening to this, they can DM Derek. Derek has a much more saturated country than we do, so he can most likely find you a dealer nearby, where I would probably need to do a pallet program with you if you're outside of our area. But if you look at us.kiesel.com, we actually have on the very front page, we have a couple of really cool tools. We have a dealer finder, and you can go in, you can put, I want Servolite. This is my zip code. It'll show you your nearest dealer and other dealers in the perimeter of that dealer. So if you want to know if you have a local dealer, just use that tool. The other cool tool on our website is actually our calculator. So if you wanted to order some grout off Amazon, like we talked about, or in a local area of a Kiesel supplier, you can go to our grout calculator, and it's really unique in the industry because you plug in all the details of the tile, its thicknesses, what its dimensions are, your grout lines, and it will literally give you an extremely accurate idea of how much grout you need for the project. And I haven't heard, I've turned on so many dealers to that calculator, and I haven't heard anyone complain that they didn't get enough. So
that is awesome.
If it's for you, obviously, whether you wasted some or not. Sometimes, your generals show up and they drop off materials for guys, or subs for other subs or something, and then the guy mix a half a bucket and then uses some of it and goes to lunch and lets the rest of it go hard. So we can't control that aspect. But like, if you're buying off of what the calculator says and you're the installer, you can trust it pretty heavily that that's exactly what you need.
So I got a quick question. Now, we talked about obviously the Servolite and other things that you got kind of exceeding what the other normal ones are for square footage. How is the grout compared to the other? Obviously, I'm just kind of curious. Does it kind of
very similar? Yeah.
Okay.
Very similar. So we sell grout in 11-pound bags. So it's a very small bag as far as the industry goes. But one of the main complaints of the industry, if you're talking to customers or you're talking to contractors, is that, well, geez, I bought a 25-pound bag and I used 10 pounds of it, and here I am sitting on this partial bag, or the customer's mad at me because the bag was X amount of money and I didn't use but only a quarter of it, or whatever it is, right? So it's a pet peeve of people's. Kiesel's had all the different bag sizes over the years, so it's not something that they haven't studied. And like I said, they're super environmentally conscious. They've actually figured out that the least amount of waste comes in their product line comes in that size bag. So, ironically, the more that I've put into the calculator, different options for customers, because I'll sometimes do it on the phone with them when they call me, the more I find that it's multiples of 11, which is a really bizarre phenomenon that I've stumbled on with our products. But so to finish what you asked is that little 11-pound bag, if you're doing 12 by 24s with a 16th-inch grout line, it'll do 455 square feet. So I think that's pretty exceptional as far as its coverage goes. One bag goes a long ways with that stuff.
That is really good.
Again, a testament to us not putting, aggregate additives and everything. And what you're buying in a bag is a hydratable product that is most likely expanding too, right? Because of polymers and everything else. When you hydrate something, most things swell up, right? So you're buying something that's constantly growing when you're adding water to. And the cool part about the grout is that when you use the grout and you're installing it, you come back and you look at what you've just done, and all of a sudden you see your grout lines have kind of billowed a little bit. So it's also a part of everything being hydratable. It sits there in your grout lines and it billows instead of shrinking, right? Like the latex kind of stuff does. You always see it kind of disappearing into your grout lines, right? And with not having a latex product and being acrylic and easy to clean, you can spend a lot less time nursing the cleanliness too. So you can kind of just tool in your grout lines with your sponge to make sure you like your reveal. And then you can kind of stop playing with it and let it set up really well without having to constantly clean the haze off of everything, right? So what you end up with is a grout that you haven't washed out, a quarter of the way down into your grout line because you're so worried about its latex everywhere.
And this goes back to the same thing about us being installers, saving us time, because you're not having to clean the grout haze, so you're not having to buy grout haze remover. And then, like you said before, you don't have to seal this stuff. So That is great. That is awesome. So there's so many benefits. Derek also on a 12 by 12 tile with a 3/16 grout joint, plus or minus 200 square feet. So that just kind of puts into perspective a little bit more of a bigger grout line. For me, the customers are like in those 16th. I try to keep them real short, so that way you're utilizing and you're focusing on the tile versus the grout line. And the grout becomes something for expansion, contraction, and naturally to mend it. So that's
part of
awesome.
Part of the reason we're seeing all these huge tiles is because we've had so many decades of terrible grout. where people come in, they go, I just want less grout. Just like, give me no, can you do no grout? Right. And you're like, well, no, I got to have grout. So, it's driven it this direction into now we go down to a 32nd of an inch. So if you have rectified tiles and 32nd of an inch spacers, you can actually do 32nd of an inch with our product and still get, plenty of product in there where it's just as good as, an eighth or anything else. So
my mom used to professionally clean houses. She owned her own business. And when I show her, obviously pictures of a subway tile and things like that with all these grout joints, she goes, oh yeah, looks pretty, wait until they clean it. Like that is going to be the nightmare. So that's awesome. I love this.
So my parents were commercial janitors. They had a big business that did commercial property. So I grew up in the same kind of, mindset. And so I totally get the cleanability thing. And it's super, like I said before, the lack of having to worry about really, household cleaners and stuff on it is incredible.
I love it. Oh,
so it's
great.
kind of like an epoxy, but it's not
an
epoxy.
It's not an epoxy, but you get performance like epoxy, but there's a couple of places the epoxy should go that grout should never go, and that's a commercial steam room or kitchen, right? Although I know guys put regular cement in those applications quite often, it should, as a manufacturer, you should never do that. I'll tell you that, right? But it has the performance of epoxy as far as like that durability, customer facing wise. The lack of maintaining it and everything else, but the beauty is it doesn't kind of yellow like epoxy will. It doesn't have shine like epoxy has. So it looks like a normal grout that's disappearing as a complementary color, as opposed to some shiny kind of thing that like epoxy ends up being. Right.
Gotcha.
Love it.
Cool, man.
Kyle, do you got any questions by chance that you hadn't gotten to touch on yet?
No, man. I mean,
Zeph, you've been knowledgeable.
He's given me more information than I could have hoped for, to be honest.
Oh, this is great. Everybody that's tuned in has loved it. So this has been awesome.
Cool.
I mean, you are an awesome guest, Zeph. This has been amazing. So
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me. And I don't know if it was Derek that reached out to you or who it was, but I'm super thankful. This is obvious. I mean, it's my passion project, right? I mean, I really enjoy what I do, and I enjoy learning about stuff and hearing mostly the interaction with installers, hearing what they love or hate or why, or, and it's cool finding remedies for people. It's cool finding things to think about that maybe they never thought of. I'm a full on nerd when it comes to this stuff. When someone hits me with something I don't know, I go looking for it and I try to find the answers and provide them to them. And I don't know everything, but I'm around enough people like you guys where I learn every day something. So it's cool. And I really appreciate you having me here.
Yeah.
You are a killer rep, my friend.
The beauty of social media.
What the industry needs. Well-educated reps versus, and you used to be an installer, if I remember right. So I mean, you know what we kind of need for us, you know what I mean? So this is great.
But that's a very loose term, installer. But yeah, I mean, I've set tile plenty. Yeah.
That's all that matters. I mean, there's been plenty of reps I've talked to at these expos I go to where they haven't gotten their hands dirty or
never even walked a job site. No.
I've built like every portion of a home other than I've never really done cement work, right? So I mean, I've framed, I've done roofing, I've done cabinets, I've done painting, I've done tile work, I've done everything in that respect other than like real cement work. But I've done finished carpentry. I mean, I've done doors and windows, right? So I mean, I've pretty much built everything in a house multiple times over. But like, probably painting and tile work were the only ones that I was this passionate about learning more.
Awesome. That was kind of my same story. I haven't done any concrete as well, but I've done everything. I learned as doors and windows, learned with framing, finish work, contracting, and then finally got into tile work. And then that's where I've kind of just focused. I can do the drywall, I can do it all, but my passion is tile. And that's where I just love it. I mean, sure, I can do all the other stuff, but for me, if I'm going to do the one thing I love, this is it. So I love it. I love it, brother.
Yeah,
well,
super creative, super artistic, cool place.
Yeah, tile's always artwork. Even like on a lame tile project, it still feels like artwork. Where like
the layout, it's got so many
drywall doesn't feel like art. Like it's like drywalling in here.
I mean, and it certainly is, but it's like nothing says human like a layout, really. I mean, that's what separates the best from the worst a lot of times, right? Is that how it displays in front of you when it's all done.
Right.
You can tell pretty quickly what an artist someone was based on what that finished reveal looks like.
So true. So true. Oh, I love this. All right, brother. Well, if, we'll wrap this up. But if anybody's not following you yet, like I said before, follow Kiesel USA, and then that way they can get a hold of you, Zeph, personally. And then, be able to answer any questions that they got. But the palette program, highly suggest. I will be getting one. Kyle said he's going to be getting one as well. So you will be reaching or hearing from us pretty soon as well. So this hopefully will spread the knowledge to other people and get them on board the Kiesel train too. So this will be good.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for
Thank you,
hanging out.
brother. I appreciate you. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks everybody for joining in.